Hi, Lucy. We're going to continue our study on the 5 stepping stones to victory. And today we'll be looking at principle number 3, that of being fearless. I have a question. When facing a battle, are you fearful or fearless? Fearlessness comes from knowing our identity. When I look at in the mirror, who do I see? Who does God say that you are? Who do you see when you look at yourself? Who does God say that you are? Your identity and knowing that identity is key in winning the victory. As we look at the story, David has entered into the territory where Israel and the Philistines are on face-off. And he's heard the taunts of Goliath. And he started to ask, what's going on here? Well, David sees that, this one guy is defying the armies of Israel. It's time to take him down. So he starts asking questions and finds out that there is a reward for whoever it is that will take him down. But we need to see how has David been identified by the people in his life? When we go back to when he was anointed as king, the prophet Samuel disregarded him. He looked at the older brother as being, tall and handsome and strong and saw him as king material. And he didn't see David as being that way. But God told him that man looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. Then 7 of Jesse's sons passed in front of the prophet Samuel, and he kept feeling like none of these are them. And he said to the father, do you have any other sons? And his own father Jesse was like, oh, yeah, I do have another kid. He's out there taking care of the sheep. So he was bypassed by his own father. Then when David gets to the battle, he's asking around, and he comes to his brothers, and his older brother, those older brothers, Eliab, sees him as just this punk. And he says, what are you doing here? Who have you left the sheep with? You just came out of here because of your pride, and you just want to see the battle. You just want to see us go down. And it was basically like the big brother was saying, go home with your bottle, little boy. Go take care of your sheep. David heard that negativity, but he didn't take it in. The Bible says he turned away from him, and he went and he kept on asking questions. Well, word got out to King Saul that there was somebody willing to go to battle. So King Saul called for him. And when King Saul saw him, he saw this young little kid, and he says, you're not this warrior. This guy Goliath, he's been fighting war since he was a little kid. And who are you against him? King Saul minimized who David was, but David knew who he was. And in 1 Samuel 17, starting in verse 32, it says, then David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail because of him. Speaking of Goliath, your servant will go and fight with this Philistine. And Saul said to David, you are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for you are a youth, and he is a man of war from his youth. But David said to Saul, your servant used to keep his father's sheep, and when a lion or a bear came and took a lamb out of the flock, I went out after it and struck it and delivered the lamb from its mouth. And when it rose against me, I caught it by its beard and struck it and killed it. Your servant has killed both lion and bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, seeing that he has defied the armies of the living God. And then he goes on to say that God would be with him and that God would give him deliverance. How did David see himself? David saw himself as a champion, not because of his own strength, but because God was with him. And he knew that God had given him victory in past battles. And he knew that God would give him victory in this current battle. How do you see yourself? And then God, how does God see you? How did God see David? David was anointed king when he was maybe about 16 years old. And God didn't see a failure. God didn't see just a little punk brother. God didn't see one that couldn't war. But God saw a king. God saw a king, and he saw a man that had a heart like his. How does God see you? Who are you? What is your identity? If you know Jesus Christ as your Lord, you are royalty. Don't forget it when you're facing that that battle. You are a child of the Most High King, and He empowers you and I for every battle we face. God bless you.